Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with William Huey Jensen, and we're ready for quarterfinal action. Number one seed coming out of the Swiss rounds with a nearly unblemished record. He did not actually lose a match. He took a draw in the last round. Corey Burkhart, which is signature Grixis deck. And he has been running the tables. Actually had a chance to go 15-0 in Swiss. Decided to take a draw and lock up the first seed instead. And big smile on his face. And him too, Phillip Napoli. That's his opponent, who is playing Infect and doing a little dance for us there. Phil making it back on the Pro Tour here with the top 8. He also had an X-2 record, which would have given him that Pro Tour invite regardless. But fantastic stuff for him. One of the kind of cool sub-stories, good friend of his, Osip Labidovic, 2 weekends ago, maybe it was 3 now, I can't remember, but he also top 8'd a GP and put himself back on the Pro Tour as well. Now they're both queued for Dublin, so that's pretty cool. Let's get underway here in the quarters.
Corey's going to be on the play.
Corey's going to be on the play, that's right.
He has one of those one-land hand that he's accustomed to. We've seen him keep a few of those over the course of the weekend.
We have, and one-land hand with the Serum Visions is something that...
Yep.
That's why you play the card, right? I mean, kind of get you out of some binds like this.
And I mean, he's got 2 copies of Snapcaster Mage, a Spell Snare or 2. On the other side, Phil is going to be the one to take the mulligan. I didn't get a chance to... Whoa.
Thank you, Corey. Look how helpful he is. He's like, all these Snapcaster Mages, Spell Snare, he's got a Polluted Delta.
Corey tweeted yesterday about a conversation we had. We were just talking between rounds when you and I were off in the booth, and we were talking, how people say that deck's tier 3, and this is like tier 6 and tier 4A, so I called his deck tier 7 as a joke, sort of just to mock the use of the term tier. And then he tweeted it. And
he did?
Yeah, he tweeted that. Despite the fact he called my deck tier 7, I'm 9-0 after day 1. But I actually was just joking. His deck's obviously fine.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's crazy, too. He really has had a fortunate run. He was 14-0 going into the last round.
Yep.
I'm still a little bummed that he didn't play.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. It's totally up to him. Like, I don't begrudge him that, but I just wanted to see it.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
I don't know. It's fun to make history.
I agree.
Phil found a keeper. Burkhart is going to be leaning very hard on those Spell Snares. How good are they? We know they can hit Blighted Agent.
Another mulligan for Phil. That's not good. Blighted Agent.
Binds.
No. Binds cost 1. Kicker doesn't increase the cost of the spell either.
Even when it's on the stack? Oh, no. What else?
Blighted Agent.
Something. Apostle's Blessing?
Yep, Apostle's
Blessing. He's got one of those in the deck.
Spell Skite after sideboard.
Yeah, all right. So not a lot.
Nope.
And he's got I think he has all of them in his hand. When Corey was showing us, did he have all 3?
2, I think.
2 of them? Okay.
Maybe 3, I'm not 100% sure.
I think he has all 3, but... But Corey's early game, he's going to be playing a Serum Visions.
I think Phil might have a 0-land hand with a Noble Hierarch.
And a Scry to the bottom on top of it. Uh-oh. Well, this could be a quick game 1 here if Corey's able to get the lands flowing. And he's got a draw step and 2 scries. He scries a Tasigur and an Ancestral Vision to the bottom. And does still need to find a land. Hey, look at that.
It's possible I didn't see it correctly, but it did look that way to me.
Found it.
Yeah.
Polluted Delta in hand for Corey Burkhart, so he is going to hit the second land. And he's really going to hope to nab something with a Spell Snare here just to get some value out of those, and that's not going to get it. Uh-oh, Glistener Elf.
Spell Snare this.
Ah, but that's not bad at all. Thought Scour.
The bolt.
Sees
Corey
a bolt,
needs a
which
land
he would
for
have
Snap
loved.
Bolt.
Yeah, he sure does. And instead he finds a cryptic command that he's far away from being able to cast. Though I believe he's got a Tasigur in his hand there. Yeah, he does. So at least he can play that. The Glistener Elf's going to have a hard time running over Tasigur.
And you see Corey playing against Infect doesn't bother cracking the Polluted Delta at end of turn because he both wants to draw a land and doesn't care about taking extra damage to put the land into play later.
I think he did draw a land.
Yeah, he did. Watery Grave.
Yeah. So this is going to allow him, if he'd like, to play a Tasigur and also keep up spell snares. Big Z chiming in on Twitter there. He's not wrong. Corey really is great at playing this deck. He's put a lot of work in on it. He's played it in multiple GPs, though not recently. Watery Grave untapped for Burkhart is going to allow him to go for the Snapcaster Bolt now. Bzz. And he's doing this because a card like Finds of Vastwood.
I really do.
Oh, you really do?
Yeah.
I'm assuming he targeted the Glistener Elf there.
I don't know. He's got a blocker for that guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Phil only has one land. He knows there's no more in hand.
That's a good point. He did earn a Vines of Vastwood from Phil Napoli there. And Corey's tapped out, and there's a Blighted Agent. Oh, Corey's heart just has to sink. Although now it's going to be rising once again because he just drew himself a Terminate. Now he can play Terminate plus Tasigur here. Bzz. So get rid of Blighted Agent. Phil really doesn't have a lot of options here, being crimped on cards and mana. And Corey, instead of playing Tasigur, has opted to leave up Spell Snare here, fearing maybe another Blighted Agent. Though that's not what Phil Napoli has. He's got another Glistener Elf. But Corey's okay with that. He's got the Tasigur that you can use to block that anyway. And he drew a Serum Visions for the turn as well, which he's going to use. A couple of nice ones. A land and a Kolaghan's Command are the scries here. And he's looking at a Counter Squall in hand, which, you know, it will find a target.
Yeah, there's a lot of non-creature spells in the Infect deck, notably all of the pump spells.
Looks like he's put both on top, though. I did not quite catch which order. Now is he going to go Tasigur, leave up Spell Snare? Is he just going to leave up the Counter Squall? He's going to leave up the Counter Squall. Land off the top for Napoli.
He also
get
has
the damage
theoretical. He has the Ambush Viper, which it's not that bad against Glistener Elf, honestly.
Sure. Phil doesn't respect it, though. He just jams. And there's a Blighted Agent, and Corey's like, yes! Get to Spell Snare
looking at these things,
this game. Kolaghan's Command that Corey put there, that means that the next card's going to be a Scalding Tarn for Burkhart. He may just pass a turn yet again. Like you said, he's got the... We're calling it an Ambush Viper.
It's a lot better.
It's a little better than that. Nope, he's going to go for the Tasigur this time.
Tasigur's a big blocker.
Indeed. This also allows Corey to set up a potentially awkward situation for Phil, where if Phil decides to use Pump Spell to try to get over Tasigur and Corey counters it with Counter Squall, then he'll lose both, depending on how Phil sequences it. All right, here's a Might of Old Krosa. Well, this is a little awkward just because he kind of has to do it during the main phase to get it big enough.
Yeah, but it's also safer. You don't really care that much.
It is also safer.
Yeah. You don't really care that much if your Infect creature goes unblocked. Yep.
And Corey's just going to chump.
Yep. Totally reasonable.
Nice card for a card, and you know that Corey can pull ahead in cards late in the game. There's that Scalding Tarn.
Yeah, and I mean, Corey certainly has the option here to just Kolaghan's Command, attempt to kill Glistener Elf, return Tasigur as a blocker.
Sure. I mean, he's going to run Phil out of cards. Phil's on a mulligan to 5. He only has 2 cards in hand going to 3 here.
Another really strong play, a Snapcaster, target Terminate. Block your Glistener Elf. Are you going to do anything? No. Okay. Are you done? End of turn, terminate your Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, or heck, into combat.
End of combat, yeah, sure. That's better.
Zip it.
Well, no, maybe not, because then you can leave it up for another infect creature.
True. More options.
Yep.
That's a great play either way. It gives Corey a lot of flexibility. Okay, so Glistener Elf is going to attack. Before anything, Corey's going to crack this fetch land, and I think we're going to see that play that you described. It just gives him so many options. Makes life very difficult for Phil Napoli. He basically has to trade his Glistener Elf
for a
Snapcaster Mage that is still getting value. It's not where Phil wants to be at all. Corey snaps off the block. And there's that Terminate. Yeah, by waiting to the end of the turn also, we're getting into the details here, but it also lets him leave up Counter Squall just in case there's something he's not anticipating.
Sure, yeah.
Damage, sure. And kill your Noble Hierarch.
About time for the little Dryad Arbor that could.
It's got to do 11 damage.
I said little.
But you also said could.
That's true.
Well, it was an Ancestral Vision off the top. And, you know, with no threats on the battlefield, we could easily see this game get to that point, though. If it does,
you
I
don't
think
consider
it'll be
Misty
locked
Rainforest
up.
the threat?
Well,
the threat of a 1/1?
I meant for Corey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, it's going to be hard for him to have the game literally won before that vision is done. But he'll have it figuratively.
Become Immense does a lot of damage.
No, I meant Corey.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I like infect so much, I just get entrenched on that side.
Well, you are on Team Poison for this.
Yeah, of course.
I'm on Team Grixis, so it makes sense.
There's an Inkmoth Nexus.
Okay. Dryad Arbor's going to bash for one. No mercy from Phil Napoli.
Phil can find a Millstone. He can be attacking on every axis.
Go for the trifecta.
Yeah.
Okay, Kolagon's command. Get back Snapcaster Mage. You discard a card. I think Phil only has 2 left.
Ooh.
Oh, Vines of Vastwood hits the bin.
Please report to the Blue Gathering Point. Your turbo draft is waiting for you. Aaron Reed, please report to the Blue Gathering Point.
The black and white die quickly subbed out for the white and black die.
It was one smooth motion. Corey's just going to play a land tapped and pass back. Is Phil going to attack with the Inkmoth and the Dryad Arbor? Just the Inkmoth? Just the Dryad Arbor? He's got a Pendelhaven in his hand now.
What's his other card? Do we know?
I do not know, but it's better than Vines of Vastwood. It might just be another Vines of Vastwood. It could be a Become Immense.
Become Immense at least threatens lethal.
Right. Okay. Taking 2. Corey certainly can take that. He's only at 2 poison counters. He can just say, all right. That's what happens. He's going to go to 4 poison. And Phil, with not a lot of options left, I think he's just going to pass the turn back here. Corey's kind of got his eye on that Cryptic command. We're going to see maybe a little bounce draw. Nothing. He's going to stay patient here. Finds another land off the top of the library. And he actually does have things to do with his mana as well. Snapcaster Mage opens up that door. But Corey can't sit here forever.
Nope.
Okay, so he's going to activate Inkmoth and say, all right, how about before you go to attacks, I may want to do something. I decided not to. You may attack. Inkmoth attacks. Dryad Arbor is going to cast a Blossoming Defense to kick things off here for Phil Napoli. This is going to force the issue, but we know that Corey has that counter squall from way back in the early part of the game,
Honestly,
as well as the Cryptic Command.
This doesn't force anything, just to be fair.
Sure.
This only does, it's like you're at 6 life, and you're getting attacked for 1, and your opponent goes, shock you. Like,
but if it resolves, he has another card in his hand.
well,
right?
sure, but then you can counter that. All I'm
Okay.
saying is you are in no danger of letting this resolve with 2 counters in your hand.
With the counters in his hand.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not saying he necessarily should
Sure.
or will, but I think it would be a totally reasonable play to let this resolve.
Okay. Corey's going to counter squall it. Phil takes a peek at that one card he's got left. He has really been operating with not that much wiggle room after mulliganing to 5 here in game 1. And it has made his life very difficult. Phil is going to respond by Pendelhavening his Inkmoth, though. And then says, okay, that resolves. I lose 2 life. You want to take 2 poison? Sure. All right, go to 6 then.
I can't really see that well. Corey, I don't think has anything in his graveyard that he can use the Snapcaster Mage to get rid of the Nexus. Oh,
Well,
that was a big
he's
draw.
got Kolagon's Command.
Well, no, I meant at end of turn with only 4 mana.
Ah,
But that was a big draw to terminate because it gives Corey 2 ways to interact on this, which is going to be the most crucial turn because it's a turn before the Ancestral Vision.
sure. Inkmoth has been activated, and it's going to attack, and it's going to get Pendelhaven. So the same play as last time. This would put Corey to 8. Phil feels like, well, I just got to go for it. He's going to pay 2 life to play a Mutagenic Growth, which will elicit a response here from Corey. He's going to terminate the Inkmoth.
Yeah. This is it.
This is just it,
This
right?
is the game. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Corey basically has won because even if Phil has anything,
Then Corey just counters it with Cryptic
and Phil just loses everything.
yeah.
Then
He just
Corey's
loses
going to
all his
untap with a
choice.
Snapcaster Mage in hand, draw 4 cards, and it's almost impossible for Infect to come back from that position.
Right. Yeah, coming back is not in the
No,
wheelhouse
it's
for
not.
Infect,
It's
yeah.
really hard to do. It's almost like it's almost semantic, but it's almost impossible.
Yeah,
you don't
it's
really
really
come back. Sometimes you steal a game, like end of turn Dryad Arbor, 2 become immense, take 13, you fetch too much, whatever. Like you steal a game, but you don't really
Yeah.
come back.
No. And incidentally, Phil did nothing.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
the terminate just resolved.
right. It was probably such that what Phil actually had in his hand is just another pump spell, not a protection spell.
Right.
And obviously pump spells don't help against terminate.
So now he's on the Dryad Arbor beatdown plan. But Corey's got some wiggle room there of dropping down to 7. Corey's just going to go for a lightning bolt on the Dryad Arbor. Once again, just putting the ball in Phil Napoli's court and saying, hey, do something.
Yeah, and Phil sort of, I think he drew a Vines. I think he almost just has to protect his Arbor. He just has nothing going
Otherwise,
on.
then he needs
It's
running.
like a Hail Mary, like, oh well, I'll Vines this and hope I draw Become Immense and Corey has 5 lands in his hand or whatever, which
Yeah.
we know isn't the case, but what are you going to do?
Right. So Vines of Vastwood is going to be used to protect the Dryad Arbor, and Corey says, sure. But he's not done yet. He's going to play Kolagon's Command out of his graveyard here, get back another Snapcaster Mage, and probably take that last card out of Phil's hand, which was just a forest anyway. And Corey would have been probably thinking, yeah, he doesn't have much at this point. And there's another lightning bolt off the top as well. He can use that proactively, just kill the Dryad Arbor while the shields are down and leave Phil Napoli with nothing but 3 lands left.
Yeah, I mean, Corey has access to like 4 cryptic commands with just the cards in his hand.
Yeah, it's absurd.
So, and Phil has no cards and no threats. Effectively, no permanents that do anything. So, yeah, this is one of those not coming backers.
Nope. No, Corey has sufficiently ground his opponent down with card advantage. We saw him trade, Tassiger for a pump spell, Snapcaster Mage for a pump spell, Lightning Bolt for a protection spell. And he's like, yeah, sure, man, I'm the one with Ancestral Visions floating out there waiting for me, not you. And now, as is often the case, the combination of Snapcaster Mage, Tassiger, Creeping Tar Pit, and some number of Lightning Bolts will get the job done for Corey Burkhart.
And don't forget,
he does take game 1.
That game was pretty competitive at times. I mean,
absolutely.
Corey pulled away at the end, but that's the game in which we think that Phil definitely mulliganed to 5 and may have started with 0 lands in his hand.
Yeah.
Didn't play a land on turn 2, and I don't even think turn 3.
No, he made a game of it for sure.
He definitely made a game, made the best of a bad situation. Unfortunately, just came up a little bit short.
Now the players are going to consult deck lists. This is something that happens in the top 8 here at the televised broadcast at GPs.
Sometimes.
Yeah. It's a fairness thing.
Yeah, it's like, for example, Corey's been on camera all weekend, and people have access to his deck list that's been out there. We've probably looked at it 5 or 6 times ourselves, and, it would be very easy for somebody to have taken a screenshot of that, send it to Phil. I mean, this is not specific to Corey and Phil. They just happen to be the example. But take a screenshot of that, send it to Phil. Then Phil would know Corey's whole deck list, and maybe Phil has only been on camera once. Nobody got a chance to send it to Corey, and then Phil has this big advantage that really sort of unevens what should be an even playing field.
And so to fix that,
perfect information.
Players get just a couple of minutes to review those lists in between, and then they have to get to sideboarding. They have the normal amount of time for sideboarding beyond that, at least in theory.
That's the letter of the law rule. But in practice, once the clocks are off,
I mean, I'd vote for that. Just saying.
Thanks, Caleb. But in theory, once the clocks are off, I don't know. In practice, I mean, once the clocks are off, stuff slows down a little bit.
I know.
Although it by the letter of the law, it shouldn't.
No, it really shouldn't. Take a look at the sideboards on the left and right side of your screen to get an idea for what these players might be bringing in against each other. You can see that there's 4 Spell Pierce in the sideboard there for Phil Napoli. He can use that to help blank the removal spells from Corey Burkhart. Corey is trying to resolve, up to Cryptic Command. Phil Napoli also has 2 copies of Spellskite in his sideboard, which can be pretty annoying for Corey to work through. It kind of blanks Lightning Bolt and makes it so that Corey has to use a Kolaghan's Commander or Terminate to kill the Spellskite before he gets to start aiming those removal spells at creatures that Phil actually cares about. And sometimes that's the only window they need. So the unstoppable Corey Burkhart, he didn't lose in the Swiss. He did have 1 draw, but he didn't actually pick up a match loss in the entire Swiss portion of the tournament, and now he finds himself up a game against Phil Napoli. looking to run it all the way through and get it.
Intuitively, it always feels
trophy.
like these heavy creature removal decks are going to be great against Infect, but in practice, they're not as good as you would think, I've found.
I found the exact same thing. I mean, I played
Not that they're bad.
Jeskai against Infect a bunch of matches, and what I was talking about earlier. It has Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, and Path to Exile. Like, what?
Probably a couple Electrolyze, Snapcaster Mage.
Yes, it has all of those things,
Yeah.
you know. Even Nahiri, randomly. Like, how could that not just destroy this Infect deck? And it does not. This Infect deck is simply built to kind of bottleneck your removal spells.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I mean, it's all about Become Immense. That's the annoying one. Vines of Vastwood's, strong, but Become Immense is the one that just says, well, you lose.
Yeah, that Delve cards, I think, in general, are the ones that have seen play for a reason. Those cards are
Bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, the best ones are banned in Modern.
Yeah, indeed. We got to play with those for a little while.
Yeah, a couple months.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that's enough
It
of
might
that.
have been a couple 2 months too long. So you can see that there's a Gitaxian Probe from Phil Napoli, and we get a chance to get a good look at Corey Burkhart's hand, which looks pretty solid here. Lots of ways to kind of churn through his deck. Does need to get the land drops flowing. But he's got a Tassiger in there. We're going to see Serum Visions or maybe a Thought Scour here.
Looks that way.
Yeah, just get a Tassiger down as soon as possible is one option for him. Okay, Pendelhaven for Napoli is going to put his first threat on the board, a Glistener Elf. Thought Scour for Burkhart. And he even finds a Polluted Delta.
A lot of respect paid to that Lightning Bolt off the probe. Because I think Corey only had 2 land, a Watery Grave, and a Sulphur Falls in his hand. So he would have had to actually draw a red land to cast that bolt. But like we've talked about before, the Infect deck can become so crippled if your one Infect creature dies that Phil thought it wasn't even worth the risk of getting his creature out there on the first turn. Because it really makes you a lot faster to be attacking for 2 Infect on turn 2 rather than playing your first creature on turn 2.
Yeah, it could be an entire turn of difference. It basically says, I'm going to be able to go toe-to-toe with all of the things you have to interact with me by waiting. Here's a Scalding Tarn for Burkhart. There's that Steam Vents. There it is. All right, so what's the first play going to be for Corey? Looks like he does just want to get Tassiger down here. Let's see what he does. Yeah, Banana Man in the house. By the way, we mentioned yesterday how they got artists out of the GPs.
Dismember.
Dismember?
Yep.
Oh my God.
It's big.
Ouch. Wow, the door's open here. Let's see if Phil Napoli can slam it shut on Corey Burkhart. I was going to say the artist for Tassiger is here.
Oh yeah.
You can get your Tassiger signed.
Marshall and I walked around between one of the rounds. We walked over to all the artist booths.
Chris Ron over there.
Yeah,
Mark Poole,
that's the Tassiger artist, right?
Yep.
And then we spent a little bit of time at Mark Poole's booth. He has some awesome prints over there.
I got one sitting
Ancestral
right next to me.
Recall, Balance. Marshall picked up a Library of Alexandria, which I'm a bit jealous of, but
Yeah.
I couldn't buy the same one.
Yeah, I know you couldn't.
No,
I beat you to the punch.
I know. Library of Alexandria is so much fun.
Ugh.
I mean, come on.
That's the only card I have of that caliber.
Right, like
upper tier. Shall
you've heard
we
of the
say.
Power 9, but we used to call it the Big 10. Library was the 10th.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, the Power 9 and the Big 10.
I like that. Okay, so here we go. A big turn for Phil Napoli. He's going to use Pendelhaven and use a Noble Hierarch. And he's just going to get in for 3. Okay, so Corey Burkhart avoids the explosive
Ooh,
hit.
what a draw.
What did he draw? Bolt?
No, he drew, is it Staticaster?
Oh, Staticaster. Oh, my God.
It's pretty interesting, but
Staticaster's great. Yeah, it lets you do something kind of weird. You can block and then activate it so that you prevent yourself from just dying out of nowhere.
you can also block and not activate it. Just wait.
That's true. You can take a hit.
So the problem from Corey's perspective right here is he's a bit worried about going, is it Staticaster, shoot your elf, because then if Phil goes, I'll cast any protection spell, untap, become immense, and it's over.
Yeah, and it's not even just protection, it's just any pump spell, right? It only does one
right,
way.
sure.
Yeah, so it's like, it's a lot of the cards in his deck.
Right, it is.
But the Staticaster changes that dramatically. Again, its ability to block first is the key, because if you play it and tap it and they protect their creature, then the door's open.
The problem here is that Phil is going to probably use his Pendlehaven.
And so it's actually just
And
a
so
3
it's
power.
a 3 power, and it's like,
You're right.
if you don't respond to Pendlehaven, you can't block or take it.
No.
You know, like,
No, you
can't,
really
you can't threaten the ping, but maybe he's not going to use the Pendlehaven. He also can't. He also can't let the Exalted resolve.
No.
So if even if Phil goes, I'll attack with Glistener Elf Exalted, and Corey goes, I'll play Staticaster, shoot, then he can use Pendlehaven.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's going to use Pendlehaven now.
Right, so this forces the issue. Corey has to respond here if he wants to
Right,
do
if he wants to do
that
anything,
play.
he has to respond.
This is awkward for Corey for sure.
Sure is. He might be best off just playing his Staticaster, blocking, and then shooting the Hierarch.
Yeah. Not what you dream of when you put
No,
the Staticaster in your
sure
deck,
isn't.
but hey, he could easily lose this game this turn, depending on what's in Phil's hand. So he's got to be very careful here. There's Vines of Vastwood.
So that's just threatens lethal, right?
It's 7, yeah.
And right now we've got a 3/4 Glistener Elf. So the Lightning Bolt doesn't even offer any protection, assuming Phil doesn't have anything, which he might not, I don't know. But I don't even think Corey can threaten an interaction with what he has. I think he only has a Bolt which doesn't have an effect.
It doesn't. But this must have been before blocks? It does seem strange, right?
Right.
Because you wait for the Pendlehaven and the Exalted trigger to resolve and you say blocks, and they say no, then you go.
I guess.
Because now this opens up the door here for this play. He could have done that, right?
Yeah. A bit surprising. I'm not sure what would cause that, because, Corey could also just have like a Snapcaster Mage. It's not...
Yeah, it's not just the Staticaster
Right.
that's a factor here. And interestingly, Phil Napoli is actually going to use a Mutagenic Growth to save his Noble Hierarch.
That's fine. Bit of a misstep there for sure.
Yeah. We'll see if it costs him. Because things are moving forward for Corey Burkhart here. He's going to have access to a Cryptic Command, which with no Inkmoth Nexus on the battlefield is an effective way to keep Phil from killing him for a turn.
Yep.
Cryptic Command doesn't actually target the creatures that it's tapping down. It just says tap all your opponent's creatures. You just get tapped. I mean, sure, there's cards like Spell Pierce that can interact, but none of the, give my creatures hexproof do anything against that. But that's also just a holding pattern for Burkhart. He's going to need to find a way to get something down to block or interact with the Glistener Elf. We know he's got a Lightning Bolt in his hand. He could just play it on his turn.
He could.
But he'd need a backup plan to feel comfortable with that, I think.
If he's going to cast
Maybe
spells on his own...
Snapcaster Mage.
If he's going to cast spells on his own turn, Serum Visions will be first.
Okay. Well, he's doing that either way, so let's see.
Snapcaster Mage, roughly the best draw in the deck all the time, so...
Right. it's just a question of, does he want that extra land? I don't think he does. He's got a tar pit and an island in his hand already. Okay, so main phase, lightning bolt. Okay, and that's going to draw a Vines of Vastwood and tap out Phil Napoli. But it's going to work.
Maybe. Corey could Thought Scour, but with the Snapcaster Mage on top.
Doesn't want to see that go away.
I don't think so.
And it's a slim chance that he hits another bolt there.
Yeah. So the shields are down. I mean, we know.
They are down. But Phil needs to find something pretty impressive, and he doesn't. He finds a Blighted Agent here. This is the turn where Corey's really has to hold his breath and hope things work out for him, and I think they're going to. I mean, he's going to go up to 6 poison, but that's not the same as 10, and that's all he cares about at this point. Snapcaster looks amazing, too. He can kill the Blighted Agent with the Lightning Bolt and have a blocker for the Glistener Elf.
Yeah, although it's not the best blocker because of the Pendelhaven. It's just a chump blocker. I think Corey should probably just Thought Scour Phil. I think he wants the card too much.
I think so, too. That's what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows what it is. He's drawing a Snapcaster Mage, but, like, getting in his hand and getting through his library is pretty important here. Phil's like, I get to draw one? He's like, no, you get to mill too. I mean, he did point at him, you know.
He's like, me? What's going on?
It's great.
Yeah.
No.
It is true that, you know, it's not irrelevant. I mean, Phil would choose to mill himself for 10 if he could, just to have all his Become Immenses turned on.
It's true. It's true. But, yeah, Corey just could not give up on that Snapcaster Mage on top of his library.
He doesn't want to waste the mana either. If he draws something like a Terminate, he wants to be able to cast it.
Yeah, and he's got plenty of stuff in his graveyard, too, so. Big draw step here for Napoli. Can he protect that Blighted Agent?
Well, not unless he drew something. I can't see what he drew. It looks blue
card.
Oh, Twisted Image.
Twisted Image. That's not going to get the job done.
Nope.
Now he might draw something with it that does.
Does an extra point of it does an extra point of infect with the Pendelhaven.
It does. Looks like he's going to give up the Noble Hierarch trigger and just attack with both creatures,
which is totally fine.
Yep. It's 2 either way.
Also, this way, if Corey kills one,
Pendelhaven the other. So what's probably happened here is Corey said, yeah, okay, no blocks. Yeah, and now Phil's just deciding if and which.
You definitely Pendelhaven the worst creature because,
yeah,
you know, right. if Corey's going to kill something, you want it to be the Glistener Elf and not the Blighted Agent.
And Corey's going to take it. He's going to go up to 9 here.
Okay.
And see what's up with Phil. Does Phil just want to fire off this this Twisted Image here?
No, not right now. He wants to do it at a time where he can't get blown out.
Okay. So here's the Snapcaster Mage on end step. There's a Terminate. There's a Bolt. There's a Kolaghan's Command. He's got it all. This is a huge sequence here for Burkhart. If this all goes the way he wants it to, he's going to put himself in a good spot to win. Needs to get rid of the Blighted Agent. And he's going to get back the Izzet Staticaster with Kolaghan's Command. Again, if all of this happens, it's going to be rough. Now, the Twisted Image does kill the Staticaster, but not before it puts a
He's just going to cast it right now, it looks like.
Oh.
As a cycle.
Desperation time.
And try to draw something?
Spell Pierce or something? He drew a Spell Pierce? Is that what that is?
Wow.
Oh, he did.
Incredible.
He hit it.
What a draw. I was a bit skeptical about the play. I was like, well, at least you have Twisted Image for that Staticaster, but Staticaster was going to do some work. Now we're going to see the age-old Cryptic Command, tap all your creatures, Cryptic Command, tap all your creatures for a couple turns.
Right, but he needs to build up enough mana to have something on the other end of that.
Well, I don't know. Phil's at 8, and he can play the Tar Pit. It goes 8 to 6, tap the creatures.
Okay.
6 to 4, tap the creatures, attack for 5.
You're right.
You know, if with only the cards that we know about, I mean, Corey's ahead.
So Phil wants to find...
Spell Pierce, Dispel, anything like that, any sort of counter spell.
What about an Inkmoth Nexus?
I was going to say Inkmoth Nexus would be a great draw. An untapped creature on the third turn, if, you know, given that, of course, Corey doesn't draw something. For potentially a fetch land if the Dryad Arborstone is decked, though I doubt it is.
Corey did attack Phil Napoli down to 6. There's also just lightning bolts and things like that.
Yep.
Tar Pit lightning bolt. Whoop.
Yep.
You died.
Any bolt.
And now we're going to see the first Cryptic Command of what is going to be probably back-to-back Cryptics here.
In the upkeep.
Yeah, that's exactly. In the upkeep before the draw step, that's going to draw Corey an extra card and tap down all the creatures of Phil. Oh, Phil's so close. He's got him to 9 poison, but it's so far away. Corey Burkhart's up a game here in the quarters. He just needs to finish this one off, and he's got Phil down to 4.
You can see Corey being very precise, trying to play around Spell Pierce each turn. Last turn he played an untapped land instead of Creeping Tar Pit, and this turn he's going to play Creeping Tar Pit. He's not going to cast Serum Visions, just to make sure to have 2 extra mana for Spell Pierce so that Cryptic doesn't accidentally get countered and he loses.
That's right. And, you know, it was tempting for him to play the Swamp, so he could still play the Serum Visions, but he wants to set up the win the next turn. So here it is, Cryptic Command number 2. Tap everything down.
And it's going to need to be a blocker for Phil.
That is a blocker.
No. It needs to be a blocker that doesn't deal 1 damage to you, because the Tar Pit does 3. But anyway, I think the Arbor Elf, or the Dryad Arbor, isn't even in Phil's deck against this kind of deck.
And that does it. Corey Burkhart with the big swing at the end defeats Phil Napoli for 5. He found the line, the same one you saw, Huey, a couple of turns ago. Cryptic hits you, Cryptic hits you, Cryptic hits you, you're dead. And that did it. Corey Burkhart still has not taken an official loss.
He hasn't taken any losses, but he hasn't won all the rounds.
I keep dancing around it.
It's just a fact he has not lost.
It's true. It is true.
But he does have a blemish on his record.
He does.
But, you know, 15-0-1 is a really good record. Very few people have ever had a record that good in a Magic tournament.
That's right.